Guys, welcome to episode number 1 of the SaaS CMO show. Today, I am joined with Ephraim from Ziplyne. How you doing, Ephraim?
I'm doing great this morning. By the way, you can call me F.
Cool.
I'm doing great this morning. We're gearing up here. We got the long Thanksgiving weekend coming out, so we're busy day trying to get everything we want to do done before the break and before we get into December. But we're doing well here.
Yeah, cool. Just kind of a bit, I guess, before we kind of go forward a bit, can you get close to your mic? I think it's
okay, closer.
There we
Closer.
go. Yeah. I think.
I want to make sure that you have me exactly how you want me in the screen.
I think that's perfect. That's perfect. Cool. So I guess initially, one of the first questions that I have for you is how did you initially get into marketing? Like, what is it that initially kind of got you into the marketing world, especially B2B? Like, what is it that kind of pushed that trigger for you? I guess initially.
So the short kind of vanilla, not so interesting answer on that is that I cut my teeth working in the public relations world, working for PR firms.
Got it.
And on the B2B side,
mm-hmm.
that's actually, let's go with that, because when I first started working for PR firms, I remember I wanted to work for really, really exciting, what I thought were exciting accounts, entertainment, sports. And I remember being a little bit bummed that my initial jobs were B2B.
Yeah.
We're business to business. And when I first started working, I didn't really understand exactly what business to business was. I mean, I knew what the word business meant, but basically that you're marketing businesses that primarily market themselves to businesses.
Yeah.
It wasn't the thing that the 22-year-old in me had envisioned when I started working for PR firms.
Yeah.
But in reality, it gave me a great background to do what I do now. And I really think B2B is not only is exciting, it really stretches your mind to do the fun, strategic stuff. In many ways, not to take anything away from people that work in entertainment and sports, because I still think those are exciting in many ways. But in many ways, this opens yourself up to do some really deep strategy. Piggyback on what I said, I remember I started off answering saying I thought it was somewhat of a vanilla answer. How did I start working for PR firms? Is when I was in college, for most of my first 2 years, I had probably my best bet was going to be that I was going to go to law school. That's what I entered college pretty sure that I want to do. Dreams of maybe getting into politics afterwards. And middle of my sophomore year, I realized that I really, really didn't want to go to law school. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I didn't want to go to law school. And I went to career counseling at my alma mater, and I basically said, help. And they gave me those tests that are supposed to be hints at what you're good at. I think mileage varies as to whether they're helpful or not. Some people say they nailed that, they were accurate. Other people are less than positive about them. But I will say that one thing that kept coming up was public relations. And I really didn't know what public relations was. I knew it was sort of like advertising, but not really advertising. And the more I learned, the more I said, you know what, this could be a good place to start my career. And I really set out to have my first job be at a public relations firm. And shortly after I graduated college, that's where I ended up.
Got it. Okay, and what kind of got you involved with Ziplyne? Like, how did you get involved with these guys and kind of what they're doing right now?
So it's an interesting story. I talked about my alma mater, Johns Hopkins University. When a few years back, I as an alumnus, there's a lot to go on from my early days in the PR firm to basically doing what I was doing now. But I was very involved in the general startup world in New York. And I became very intrigued with what was going on at my alma mater with some of the social innovations going on. And my alma mater, Johns Hopkins University, had something called the Social Innovation Lab. And I knew some people that were involved with it. And on a whim, I went down a few years back to check out some of their events, check out some of their cohort. And Ram Chopra, who is the founder of Ziplyne, at that point had a different project in the Social Innovation Lab. And we met down there through that. We hit it off. I'd like to say that we became friends almost immediately. And he was working on something a little bit different then. I was working on something a little bit different then. We stayed in touch. He graduated and did something else. I got involved in a few other things, and it was a couple of years back that I had done him. I think I inadvertently done him a favor. I introduced him to somebody that I didn't realize that had turned out to be a great contact for him, and he wanted to meet up and take me out to dinner just to thank me. And I said, oh, by the way, I'm transitioning out of being CMO of the startup that I was at the time. And he said, oh, then we definitely should talk because we're about to do some really exciting things. And I want to talk about you joining us. And that's how we got started. And I think the good lesson there is, in my opinion, you should always be nice to everybody. You should always look to help people because it's the right thing to do. But you know what? If you don't buy into that, I really hope everybody does. But even if you don't buy into that, you should do it because you never know when it's going to help you. And in this case, I think that's really both were true.
Solid advice. Yeah. Okay. And so I guess that since you've been with these guys, like, what are some of the strategies that that you've implemented on the kind of marketing front that have helped them grow? Stuff you're currently implementing. Like, what are some of the strategies that you're currently kind of using present day?
So I'll go macro and then I'll go a little bit micro. Some things that we're doing on the macro. This may sound like common sense, but I feel I need to say it because I see some companies that just ignore it, including companies that we've been adjacent to. In that, remember who your audience is. I think that is, if that's not marketing 101, it's pretty close to 101. We understand that we are a B2B. We understand that really among the people that we want to reach are user experience managers, customer service managers, people that oversee the business application for their site. Those three audiences combined are probably 80-90% of the people we want to reach, maybe even more. And so we have to keep that in our mind in terms of where we do our outreach. Does it make sense to advertise on certain channels and not others? I think I can say it's there that it probably makes much more sense for us to reach out to people on LinkedIn than it does on Facebook. We're not ignoring Facebook, but we just understand that LinkedIn is a much better bang for the buck for us. I see some other companies, some other SaaS B2B companies that I'm not sure understand that. If they were to ask me for my advice, I'd give it to them. They're not rushing to ask me for my advice on that. But that I can look at that for our team and what we're doing. And I think that dictates some of our micro strategies as well too. We are simply doing things to reach out to those specific audiences. Landing pages is something that we're starting to get up. That's very, very important to us because that's going to help us really target the messaging to these micro audiences in terms of really saying to them, we understand what your pain points are. And here is how we can help you solve that problem. Because in the end, we'd like to think that we're nice people. We'd like to think that we have a fun product that looks good and a good looking website. But we understand at the end of the day, that's not why people are going to give us money. People are going to hire us. People are going to become our customers and our users because they believe that we can help them. They understand that they are being judged on their job on certain criteria, and they believe that we can help them in those metrics. And or we believe that when they go back and speak to their superiors or their board, that they can say, wow, you basically are working with Ziplyne. that was a good move.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, okay. And kind of digging down, I guess, more into the LinkedIn stuff, because I know you mentioned it there. What are you guys specifically doing right now on LinkedIn? In terms of micro strategies, like, are you looking into ads? Like, what are you doing on LinkedIn right now?
So we're looking to a lot of things. I don't want to. I don't know if it's fair to go too much into micro, especially since some of that is fluid,
Yeah.
and some things you don't necessarily show your hand in a public conversation. But I would say many of the basic things that you would think that you would think of in terms of posts and ads are things that we are definitely either doing or looking at.
Yeah.
I think that part of things that we're doing also is just always trying to be as smart about this as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can make a LinkedIn post. Anybody can make a LinkedIn ad, but you have a certain amount of real estate to make as many points as possible, and without overdoing it. How do you do that? Also, what is the right frequency? And we're A/B testing that.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, LinkedIn posts, like many social media posts, are free.
Mm-hmm.
You can make a post every minute of every day.
Yeah.
That's probably not the smartest move, but probably making one post a year isn't the smartest move either. Where is the sweet spot?
Mm-hmm.
And also, what are the right things to say in that? Because there's some things you want to repeat. There's some things you want to engage on. We basically, giving my colleague Dan Shirley, who I think a little bit of kudos. He did a great LinkedIn post yesterday that I reshared as other people on our team did, tying in Thanksgiving to how Ziplyne can be a solution for basically people working in SaaS. It's sometimes tough to do that with coming off overly corny or overly manipulative. But we're trying to do that. We're trying to find that sweet spot, and we're trying to be smart about it.
Makes sense.
And I think often that's what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
One of the other starts I was at, we had so many meetings where somebody in me kept saying, "What is the funky idea here?" And that was what they kept saying. What is the funky idea here? Mm-hmm. And I felt that I often need to push back on that and say, listen, funky ideas are nice, but they can't be funky just for the sake of being funky.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Are they helping you to reach your goal? I will take the most boring, most overused idea in the world that helps us reach our goal over something that seems really cool, seems really funky. You can put me in a turkey suit, which, by the way, I did that once at a PR firm. I was in a turkey suit. It made sense. It was for the Food Bank of New Jersey that was trying to get raised turkeys for the turkey drive. That made sense. I will put on a turkey suit and go out in the middle of Manhattan. If you can convince me it's going to make sense for our brand, it's going to make sense for getting us where we need to be. But just putting me in a turkey suit and walking out because it's a funky idea is probably both a waste of money and time.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. I agree with that as well. And where do you kind of see, if we're going to the new decade now, like, where do you see the B2B kind of marketing world going, let's say, in the next kind of 5 to 10 years? I know it's far out, but where, in terms of strategies, in terms of channels, in terms of how we approach it, what do you see kind of, happening over the next kind of decade in terms of, new things?
So it's this may be kind of a boring answer. I will say that it's tough. I think it's really tough to predict where technology is exactly going to take us. Because there are various things that we could not have predicted a few years back. Even both successes and not successes. 3 years ago, I was very, very bullish on WeWork and the WeWork model. We see what's happening there. And I would say I wasn't as heavy a Zoom user as we're talking right now today, 5 years ago, as I am now. And now Zoom is something I use virtually every day. So I can take guesses. But the answer is I'm not going to pretend I know because I don't. What I what I will say, and this may or may not be the answer that you wanted, but it's what I firmly believe. I think that the old school strategies
Mm.
will still be in play. They may be in new packaging, they may be they're new mediums, but really messaging will always be important.
Yeah.
Where you post that messaging may change. It may be 10 years ago, it wasn't on LinkedIn. 20 years ago, it wasn't on Facebook.
Yeah.
But where you put that messaging, but they may be new channels,
Yeah.
but the messaging is still key.
I agree.
And the good messaging is what's going to play out. Same thing with marketing, knowing who you are. And I know I've said this a few times already, really understanding who you are and really understanding who you need to reach
Yeah.
is always going to be important. I'll tell a quick anecdote. We were at a trade show. I want to say this was somewhere 6 to 12 months ago.
Yeah.
And we saw a couple of companies that we knew of. And I actually said to a couple guys, I said, this is going to be a good exercise because we are going to learn from this some lessons about our internal marketing. I said, let's go up to company A and we're going to ask them this question. Company A and company B had booths, let's say maybe 100 feet away from each other. I said, let's go up to company A. We're going to ask them, and people at trade shows, it's basically people in front, they're basically really doing the same pitches over and over again. Here's how our product works. Like, can I take your card? Can I scan your card? And I find that a lot of times they're not asked a lot of off-script questions, and when they are, they often don't really know how to answer them, and often maybe it's not that important because the off-script questions basically maybe aren't that important for closing the deals they need to close on that day anyway.
Yeah.
But I said this is going to be important for us. I said, let's go up to company A's booth and we're going to ask them, we see company B down there. How do you differ from them? And we did the same thing for company B versus company A. And it was really surprising how much, in my opinion, each company failed that test. Company A, I think, said, why should you hire us over company B? Said, because we've been around longer, which actually I think was factually not true.
Yeah.
They weren't prepared to answer that question. That is, to me, the most important question you should be prepared for.
Yeah.
And company B said something like, well, because we're less expensive, which I think in that case also wasn't true. To me, those are, I would say that is probably, alongside of knowing who you are, knowing your customers are, I would say know who your competitors are. And your competitors can be none of the above. Your competitors can be, we think we can do this internally, or we think that we can do this at times through a free service.
Yeah.
And nowadays, that's another thing. There's almost always a free option. It may not be a quality free option, but that's where part of your challenge is there as well.
Mm-hmm.
You have to basically sell why you're better than the free option. And often it's there. And I think that goes back to product as well, too. You need to basically be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, here's why I would spend money on this over the free option. And then you need to be able to say, this is how I, with a straight face, can convince the person who is going to be paying us money out of the budget. Here's why I should be paying you over the free option. And I think we're doing that. Hopefully we'll continue to do that. But I'd say those are the big three questions, or three of the biggest questions that I think we're constantly going to be focusing on. The channels to how we address them will change. There will be tools we work with that will change. And there will be tools that people will want us to integrate with that will change. But in the end, who are we? Who are we servicing? And what makes us different than anybody else who is trying to answer those questions? If you can answer those three questions effectively, I think you have much better recipes for success than any funky idea you do. Definitely better than me or anyone else dressing up in a turkey suit and walking out on the streets of Manhattan. And probably better than pretty websites, even though I'm a big believer that as a marketing person, as a chief marketing officer, that image is important. And you should have a website with colors that basically back up your brand and are appealing to the eye, make people want to look and stay on there. Because that's, if you show that you get that, you're going to go a long way to showing that you're going to get how to make your customers look good too.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Okay. And to kind of wrap things up, what if you have to give one piece of advice? Imagine there's a new startup. They started up, 2 months ago, and they're just about to start a marketing campaign. What one piece of advice, would you give to them? I know you've kind of briefly touched on some points throughout the podcast.
Right.
What would be the one thing that you would tell them to, over the next 12 months, have a really successful, initial marketing campaign?
I would say do this exercise. And in addition to everything I said before, which I don't want to repeat myself again because I want to give you and your audience a more thoughtful answer than that. I'd say step number one, this is exercise number one. And we did this, and I think every company should do this. And this is one of the best things I learned in a PR firm.
Yeah.
Go back, grab your internal team, and close the door and say, our mission right now for the next hour is to write one paragraph about who we are, such that if people knew only that, they would understand us.
Yeah.
Sounds like a very, very simple exercise. And often when I say we're going to do that, people are like, you push back, come on. We have more important things to do. We all know this is obvious. And my next question is always, is it obvious? Great. Then we should get this all banged out in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And often after an hour, the people say, wow, this is trickier than we thought.
Yeah.
It is a lot tougher, is something people take for granted. But it's important because once you do that, everything else becomes so much simpler.
That's the foundation. Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, cool. Well, it's been really, really awesome speaking with you. There's been so many.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
There's been so many golden nuggets throughout the entire podcast that I'm going to take away and I'm going to use in my own business. So that's been really, really useful. I'm sure everyone has really enjoyed the podcast. And like I said, guys, if you're watching this, there'll be an episode coming out every single, probably Wednesday. So yeah, guys, I will see you next week for episode number 2 of the SaaS CMO show. Cheers, Ephraim.
Thank you so much and good luck.
Cheers.